Alright guys, one of the questions I was recently asked by one of my viewers was what stoves do I use, and I thought I'd show just a few of the options I have. I have 3 alcohol stoves. Now alcohol stoves are a dime a dozen. You can make them out of soda cans or beer, metal beer bottles or whatever. They're very easy to make. You can find the online directions anywhere. But 2 of the ones I've got, this is the BIOS 2 by Mini Bowl Design. You can see that this was a Budweiser beer bottle. This was aluminum, pretty heavy aluminum metal bottle. And I don't know how he makes these, but you can see the holes there. He's got some fiberglass wicking as primer, and then you just pour your alcohol in here. And then this one I made. Now you guys have all seen the cat food can stoves, and basically it's just a cat food can. You poke some holes in and do it that way. But the cat food can stove I found is a great stove, but it's awful small diameter. It's pretty close to this diameter. Now if you're using a larger pot, something like this kettle here, like I'm using a stump here for my table. If I turn this kettle upside down and kind of give you a reference point here, if I take this smaller stove, which is about the same diameter as the cat food can stove, and set that on there, you can see how big of a diameter the pot is compared, and that makes for an unstable pairing between the stove and the, if I'm using a smaller pot, this would do a lot better. Now don't get me wrong, this is a very good sturdy stove. It's just not as great for larger diameter pots. Something like a zebra pot, this would be perfect for. And I still do use that on a regular basis, even with the bigger pots. I just have to be more careful. Now something like this, you can see how much bigger that is, and to give you a reference, that's the BIOS 2 on top of the other stove, and you can get an idea of why I use the bigger stoves. I like them because they are they're more stable. But this was basically just a dog food can I got at the dollar store. My dog got the food, and I washed it out and took a paper hole punch and punched all these holes in here. Some of them not so pretty, but it doesn't have to be pretty. It just has to be functional. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out with this stove, and then I'm going to show this stove, and then I'm going to go on to some other stoves I've got. So see you back here in a minute. Let me get all set up and I'll be back. Alright guys, okay, so I've got my stove sitting here, and I've got my pot with some water in it so I don't scorch it. And what I use for fuel on these alcohol stoves is this stuff. You've probably all seen this in gas stations and auto parts stores and Walmart and all the different stores. You can get it anywhere and just about everywhere. And it's about 90 something cents a bottle, and it's got 12 ounces. Usually I only use an ounce, less than an ounce sometimes, to make coffee. I usually don't cook on these stoves because I usually cook over the fire. But in the morning or whatever, I'll make my coffee on this one. I'm hanging from my hammock. I just lean out and make my coffee on a stove. So this is the stuff I run my stove on. And inside of there you can kind of see that little yellow tinge. That's usually where I fill it up to if I'm wanting to boil for very long. But just to give you a demonstration, just give a little bit in there, maybe a little bit more than that. After all, this fuel is very cheap. So now this stove, I prefer to light it with matches because it's kind of a pain to light it with a lighter and not get burnt. With this, that's one of the good things about having this wick on here, is it's a kind of a primer. You just get this a little bit wet on the wick with the fuel, pour the rest of whatever you want in here, light the wick, and you're good to go. Now with this one, you kind of have to get whatever you're lighting it with down in there. So we'll get set up for that, and I'll be back with you here in a second. Alright guys, I don't have a tripod today, so I'm kind of setting the camera on my knee, trying to get the best angle I can. That should be good. Now what I'm doing is I'm taking a stick, because like I said, it's sometimes you can get it, sometimes you can't, and I don't like to light this thing with my hand here, because then when it lights it's like poof, and I burn my thumb or whatever. So what I do is I'll either use a match or I'll take a stick, dip it in the alcohol, light the stick, light the stove, and the stove is now lit. You can do the ouch test, which is basically to hold your hand above it. If you feel heat, it's lit, which this one is lit, and you let that burn for a few minutes to let it warm up, and you can't even see the burn. That's what the crazy thing about these alcohol stoves. If it was dark out, you'd be able to see the blue flame, but you can kind of see the liquid moving, the fuel kind of vibrating. I don't know how well I'll see that, but you can see it's burning. And if I were to take a leaf and put this over there, you would see it catches fire. So, you know, but like I said, you just hold your hand above it, you'll feel the heat, and then we'll take it and we will put our pot on. Now this probably should have a windscreen, but I don't have anything with me for that. But you can still see the liquid moving in there, so it's still going. You can still feel the heat. It's kind of hard to tell. Alright guys, this little bag I carry with me, you can see about the size it is. And in here I carry these little coffee singles and some sugar, some cocoa mix, a couple extra spoons. This little guy here's got some salt in it. Lots of different stuff. My pipe's in there, my tobacco for my pipe. There's some sugar right there. I've also got a few cold brew tea bags in here. These are nice because you don't have to heat the water at all. You just take some cold water, put this in there, let it steep for a few minutes, and you've got iced tea. And you just add whatever sugar or whatever you want in it, and you're good to go that way. Those are really great to have. It saves you, you know, if you're on the trail, you get thirsty, but you don't want to just drink plain water. Throw a couple of them in there, and on your bottle, and keep on walking for, you know, a mile or so. About 15-20 minutes, and you got a nice bottle of brewed tea. And the nice thing is the tea bags are decomposable. So, but also in here I have this little guy, and this is what I'm going to talk about. This little guy I got at the Army Navy store for $5, and it's going to take two hands to open this thing, so let me get back to you here in a second as I get it open. But basically this part and this part both slide and then flip, so I'll show you here in a minute. Alright guys, this little stove I just showed you, it's with the flaps open. Now you can do this at an angle, you can do them straight up and down, however you want to do it. With a wider pot, I'm going to do them open. And it came with these little tablets. I assume when these tablets get done, I'll probably just use something like wet fire or something like that. Or make something up. And it's basically just a little dry tablet. I carry this, like I said, in my brew kit. I don't always use this as more of a backup stove than anything, but we'll show you what this thing's like when it's burning. So basically, I take my lighter here, and if I can get a good shot, my camera will allow it, I pick up one of these little, try to get all that stuff there in the middle if I can. Just take and light this thing. Lights right up. Okay, didn't take that time. Evidently it's wind trouble. Alright, there we go. The little tablet's burning, and then I just take and set my pot on top. And that little guy burns down in there underneath. So a really lightweight stove. It comes with its own fuel. Like I said, when I use all these up, I'll just put some wet fire or something in there. But it came with 12 of these tablets. They're real fragile, but they burn pretty decent. You know, it's a decent little stove. You know, sometimes I forget to bring an alcohol stove. This is kind of my standby. Alright guys, here is a fuel container. This is for a totally different type of fuel. This is a compressed fuel, and it is the Jetboil canister, obviously, but it's isobutane propane fuel mix, and this supposedly is 4-season. You have to be careful because some of these, when you get out there in cold weather, they don't work right. So, you know, you got to be careful there. Now this is people are probably familiar with. This is an MSR pocket rocket, which I'll show you here in a minute. And then I've got this nifty little guy, which just nests to the underside of this pot, and then it just pops off here like that. Not to the pot, to the fuel canister. And you can see the little stove here. And then that comes out of here. This is a Optimus stove. I think it's Optimus Crux, I'm not sure. Yeah, it's a Crux. And basically, you've got your little pot stands here. It's kind of hard to do with one hand. But you've got little stove stands here that pop out. Little wings. Like that. All three of them do that. And then it's kind of like putting a chuck on an air drill or something. You just kind of pull this thing back and let it flop open. And it rides on a ball joint there, and it locks into place. And then this basically screws onto here, and that's your stove. So we're going to try out the pocket rocket first, and then we'll come back and try the Optimus Crux here in a minute. So I'll be right back with you after I get everything set up. And to set this thing up, if you don't know, like I said, I'm doing this for, you know, people who don't know about stoves. I'm not an expert on claim to be, but the cap pops off, you've got threads. This thing just threads on there. Same with the pocket rocket. But I'll be back with you guys in just a second. To boils. So anyway, that is the pocket rocket, MSR pocket rocket. Now this video is not intended to show you boil times and all that stuff. There's plenty of videos out there about that. Like I said, I just got the question, what kind of stove do I use? So I thought I would do kind of an introduction to stoves for those who aren't familiar with them. And trust me, there's a lot more stoves out there. You just have to get on YouTube, get on the internet, and do searches, research, find out what's the best for you. I really like this setup. Granted, you can't boil more than one pot at a time, but you know, if you're carrying all your own gear and you're not trying to supply a whole camp, then you don't need like a big Coleman stove with 3 or 4 burners. You only need the one burner to heat up enough water for coffee or a brew, or you know, for boiling the bag meal or whatever. And this is perfect. So you know, I'm not gonna, like I said, I'm not gonna do boil times or anything like that because I don't want to waste all my fuel. So, and it's too hot to make coffee in that. So I'll be back here in a few minutes to let this cool down a little bit. I'll take it off, and we'll go to the Optimus Crux, and be back with you in just. All right, this is the Optimus Crux on here. Now, if I take my pocket rocket and hold it up to it, you can see the size of the head is a lot different. The Optimus Crux is much larger, and from what I found, even trying to use it on low, this stove uses a lot more fuel than the Pocket Rocket. It's a great stove. It boils fast, all that stuff. It's very compact and portable. You can strap it right to the bottom of your fuel can. It takes up hardly any room, but it does. It is more expensive, actually quite a bit more expensive if I remember correctly, and it does seem to take more fuel. I haven't been able to prove it, but you know, it is a bigger head. It does seem to take more fuel. So here we go. So we will get the pot set on here. It does seem to have a wider pot holder though, as far as the wings that fold out. And you can see there that it's burning. Now if I'll show you how this looks when it's cranked up. Crap, I can't hardly get in there to hold it. I mean, this thing is just a blowtorch. So I like to keep my stoves like this on low, because there's really no reason to rush it and waste all your fuel too. So I mean, if you're in a real hurry, then yeah, go for it. But so like I said, the Pocket Rocket takes up more space. It's bigger as far as, you know, compactness. This one pretty much folds up, sticks to the bottom of your can, but it's a lot more expensive. It's fancier. I do believe they make a kit that you can kind of do a tune-up on this one as far as cleaning the jets and all that kind of stuff. But it does boil. I mean, we're already at a rolling boil. So, and there was some time in between stoves to let that water cool. So it does boil faster, but it does use more fuel. It's more expensive. So you got to kind of weigh what you're going to use it for. You know, if you're willing to wait a little bit longer, the Pocket Rocket is just as good in my opinion as far as price wise. Granted, like I said, it's not as compact, but you're gonna get the job done one way or the other. It's whether you want to pay, I believe it was like 90 something bucks or 30 bucks. It's just up to you. But those are the main stoves. I do have like a Bush Buddy type stove. I don't believe it's the actual Bush Buddy, but I believe it's something along those lines. It's a wood stove. And I will show that in a future video. I forgot to grab it, and like I said, I do have the cat food can. But I think it personally, you know, to me it's easier like on longer trips to use a stove like this. But you have to know how much fuel you're going to use. For me, just cooking coffee on these things, because normally I cook my meals over the fire. Usually I just use a stove for coffee or whatever in the morning, maybe a brew at night after I've already tucked in. You know, these are great, but alcohol stoves are cheaper, they're quieter, they don't sound like a blowtorch. They're smaller, they're more compact, you don't need a big heavy can. You know, so just weigh the you know, the ins and outs and the good and the bad, and go with what you think you like and you can afford. This video was not meant to try to sell one stove over another or anything like that. It's just meant to kind of give you an idea of what kind of stoves there are. This is just a small section of stoves. There's a lot of kinds of stoves, a lot of variation. Read reviews, watch YouTube videos, all that stuff before you buy a stove, because you know, you might end up paying a bunch of money for a stove and deciding, well, I don't like that. But I can recommend the Pocket Rocket. I can recommend alcohol stoves because I've used them and I've always had good luck with them. You may not, you know, you just have to decide what you want for you. So anyway guys, I hope this has been helpful and informative. If you'd like to see more as far as boil times and that kind of thing, I'll try to get some done. I've already got a video on boil times with this guy because I did a comparison between the stainless steel kettle here, which is the GSI Catalyst, and the GSI Hyalite, or however I pronounce it. Anyway, but it was on this stove, so you got a reference as far as times on this. So you know, alcohol stoves are very cheap. I recommend start there. You can even make your own, but start with an alcohol stove, see if you like it. If not, you know, move up to something else. Move up to one of these fuel canister type stoves, wood stove, whatever. Wood stoves are very convenient because they run on very small stuff. You don't have to collect a lot of wood. Just a couple handfuls of stuff like this and you're good to go. Downside to wood stoves, it does leave smut on your pots. So, you know. But anyway, guys, like I said, if you have any comments or questions, or you'd like to see a more of a actual review, like boil times and that kind of thing, just let me know and I'll try to get it done. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching.